We talked with Erik Weihenmayer a few weeks ago, probably about a month and a half ago, let's say.
Right in the middle of his climb. He was halfway up.
He was halfway up. I guess the base is not really at the base. It's kind of up from the real bottom of Mount Everest. And
last time I climbed it, I thought it was about a mile up.
Was it about a mile up?
Yeah.
Is that what you remember? Yeah. Anyway, Erik, we've spoken with people before who have climbed Mount Everest. We have never spoken with anybody before who climbed Mount Everest who was blind, and Erik is back down from the mountain. When did you finish your climb?
We got down a week ago, and we actually had trouble coming out of Kathmandu because of all the riots, and the royal family was assassinated, so it was terrible. A terrible scene. Once we survived the mountain, we weren't sure we survived Kathmandu.
Well, Erik, I have to congratulate you. The cover of Time magazine today.
Wow.
Right.
Really?
Congratulations. That's huge.
Thanks. Yeah, it's exciting.
Is it really on the cover of Time?
Cover of Time magazine.
That's huge. That's great.
Now, what sort of adjustment does your body go through once you get down from the mountain?
Well, it's weird because you work like crazy every single day for super long hours, and you put your body through a lot, and then you come home and you just eat croissants and lay around, and
Yeah.
and so your body doesn't quite know what to do with itself.
I'm sure.
Most people that climb Everest, of course, that see are going to have an experience like no other. How is your experience to you? I mean, obviously you can't see, so what is the experience?
Well, I've actually heard the argument of, if you can't see, why bother actually going through anything? And when you're blind, you can't see, and you obviously don't have that visual view, but you have views in different ways. I use what I have to get enjoyment out of the world. I have my sense of touch. I love feeling the different kinds of terrain under my feet and different kinds of snow and rock. And it's incredible feeling the wind. One time up at Camp 2, I sat in my tent in a lightning storm, and every time the thunder cracked, it echoed against all the surrounding mountains, and it was kind of like I got a little visual idea of the way the mountains looked around me.
Now, I've read,
for me, it's just different.
I've read, articles and seen stories on TV about how they say when you're climbing up Everest, literally every step takes, is effort. It takes a long time just to go 10 yards, just because you're weighted down and you have so much gear on. How much slower is it, or is it even slower for you?
Actually, for me, the beginning of the climb is this 2,000-foot section called the Khumbu Icefall, just this jumbled, bouldery section where the glacier's dropping off and breaking up, and so that was very difficult terrain for me being blind. And as I got higher, actually, the terrain got steeper, but it was just steep snow, and that's my specialty because it's consistent. So I actually didn't move any slower than anyone. In fact, I was the fourth person on our team to summit out of 19. And so as it got higher, surprisingly, it got better for me. When you're near the top, though, you're basically you're suffocating. You're in an oxygen mask, and it's so hard to breathe. You're taking, if you're lucky, maybe 6 breaths between each step, or sometimes even 10 or 12.
Right, that's what I've heard.
Now, I know you've got a website, touchthetop.com. What's on there? Do you have photos?
Yeah, we have photos. We had with the National Federation of the Blind and Allegra, the allergy medication that I take, which is our sponsor of our documentary. We had this wonderful website that followed the climb, and we had tons of digital photos and journals and everything, and it was following our climb, minute by minute towards the end, and that's still up.
Yeah, we'll link your site for people that want to go to 99x.com and click on the Morning X page. We'll link it right to Erik's site.
Any close calls?
Well, we didn't actually send this back on the on the website because we didn't want to freak out any family members. But going through the Coombe one day, there was an avalanche that just came down the side of the wall right towards us, and I turned to my friend Sherm and just said, "Is that going to hit us?" And he said, "I don't think so." And then the guy maybe a half a mile below us hiking, the wind hit him so bad it knocked him off his feet and blew him maybe 50 feet down towards the crevasse. And when he got up, he was crying and crying for his mama.
Really?
He was freaking out, yeah, and he radioed down and said, "I'm alive." But he was really shaken up when he got into camp. He didn't talk for a little while.
Did you have any crews, any TV crews that shot footage for like Discovery Channel or anything like that?
Well, Allegra sponsored a documentary which will be out in the fall, and it's high definition. That was another of the records that we set. Not only me being blind, but we set records with the oldest man to summit, Sherm Bull, 64 years old, and the first American father-son team to summit at the same time. That was Sherm and his son Brad, and then the other was we had 19 people at a 21 summit. That's a world record for a team. And then the last one was the first high definition camera to the summit of Everest. It was 25 pounds, and a couple of Sherpas had to lug this thing up. It was gigantic, and the Sherpas are way stronger than any Westerners.
And it's amazing, those guys, I mean, they do this all the time.
They do it all the time. It's like their backyard.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, for most of us, it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. These guys do it like on the weekend.
Well, the Sherpa that summited with me was his third summit on Pasang, and he was just taking care of me the whole time. He was great. He was amazing, and you owe the Sherpas a lot. They really do the hard work.
Do you tip them afterwards?
Oh yeah, you definitely.
Kind of like a caddy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Is it like a caddy? What do you tip a Sherpa?
Well,
by the way, that's a phrase that pays.
Inflation
what do you
going
tip
up.
A Sherpa?
Inflation's pretty high in Nepal for the Sherpas because they're realizing how valuable they are.
Oh yeah.
But they get like $10 a carry.
What?
$10 a carry.
$10? Wait,
so maybe,
go up, wait a minute. $10 from every person?
Yeah, well, they get every time they do a carry through the mountain, they get about $8-9.
Wait a minute, I'm missing something. Are you saying every time they go up the mountain, they get a $9 tip?
They get $9, yeah.
To climb Mount Everest, they get tipped $9.
My tip would
No. Every time they carry a load.
Every time they carry, which could be several times.
And they probably do 50 loads. And then
okay.
And then they probably you tip them on top of that. So they're the richest people in the country.
I was gonna say,
but it's hard to put it in perspective because of it's not, they're not getting rich for American standards, but they're getting rich for Nepali standards.
We're talking with Erik Weihenmayer. He's the first blind climber to get to the top of Everest.
Now, Erik, before you went up the mountain, could you tell us what in your mind did you maybe project what it was going to feel like? What was what did you think you would experience, and what did you experience when you were up there? What was it like?
Well, it's weird because you research the mountain. I had read a ton of books, and I'd read about Hillary's account, Edmund Hillary, first climber on Everest, and Pasquale, our team leader, had summited and let me know the route. It's very specific detail, but you don't really know until you get there. And so it was a different place when I got there, experiencing it under my feet, and and it was hard. It was head and shoulders harder than anything I'd ever done. Going through the Khumbu Icefall was terrible the first few times, really scary and hard, long days. But I just kept taking it step by step. And trying not to think too hard, because honestly, when you think too hard and you overanalyze, once you're prepared, you can almost psych yourself out,
right,
and get homesick and scared. So I just really tried to block it out. We had this one climber on our team, Chris Morris, who's I tell him he's a simple philosopher. He said, how you stop yourself from being scared? Don't think about it. And I did that, and it actually worked. And every day I celebrated getting into camp, and I didn't think too hard about the next day, although that was kind of hard sometimes. And then 3 months later, you take a step and you're on the top.
So you've climbed Mount Everest. What's next for you?
I'm just celebrating now with my wife and with Emma, my 1-year-old. She has her first birthday, June 21st, so we'll celebrate that. And I'm actually going on a book tour. I wrote a book, Touch the Top of the World, which and so I'm touring. I'll be touring through London and Germany and
actually
all through the U.S., so that'll be kind of fun travel without a lot of physical exertion.
Is it already out, Erik, the book?
It's out now, yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. How cold was it there? Is this the cold time of year?
Well, actually, it gets warmer. You start out and it's very cold, and then it gets warmer. And actually, surprisingly, you have a down suit on, so that takes care of this. The cold, it's the heat that kills you. It's terrible. You go through the western Coombe, and it's this big valley with snow reflecting like an oven. You're just in the bottom of the oven, basically, and then we registered temperatures of 110 degrees. I got to camp 2 sometimes and literally felt like I was going to pass out. It was so hot. You just can barely hang on in the heat.
Well, we know you burn a ton of calories. How much weight did you lose in this climb? Do you know?
I lost 25 pounds, and I was skinny to begin with. We had teammates lose 30, 40 pounds. One guy, poor guy, Jeff Evans, who actually summited right behind me. He's amazing because he hung on there. He was sick the whole time, and he's like 135 pounds now.
Oh, man.
He's
How
a
tall
scrawny
is he?
little guy. This is a time we always love to wrestle, and this is the time I know I could take him because he's all scrawny and wimpy.
He's 130. How tall is he?
He's 5'11".
Wow.
That
is thin.
That's very thin. And did anybody not make it? I don't mean die, but did anybody like halfway up say, I
Turn
gotta
around.
go back?
Surprisingly, our climbing leader, Pasquale Scataro, who's one of the strongest climbers on our team, felt super sick on summit day, and he turned back. He actually barely made it into the South Col, into the tent. See, he's amazing. The thing I thought was so amazing about this climb was it was such a team effort. I mean, I being blind get a lot of attention, but this team was tremendously strong and so focused and had their hearts in the right places. And the Sherpas carry extra oxygen, and so Pasquale, when he turned back, went down alone because he didn't want to take away any of the Sherpas who were carrying oxygen for the team. So he kind of sacrificed his own summit bid for the team, and that was amazing.
What did this whole thing cost you?
Or cost
Well, the
leg
National
run?
Federation of the Blind, it was probably $25,000 a person to climb Mount Everest.
A person?
It's pretty
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah, I've always heard that.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
That's what I've heard, about 25, 30 grand for a person to do.
But that's actually cheap because we are all friends, and even though the focal point was to get a blind person to the top, deeper than that, we were just friends. We were just all buddies. We've been climbing together for years, and we all knew each other and trusted each other and respected each other. And that's the best way to climb Everest.
That's great. So it was harder or easier in the end than you thought it would be? Or just about what you thought it would be?
It was a lot harder.
Eric,
it was
that's
a lot
amazing.
harder, and I'm glad I'm home.
Amazing
Yeah.
accomplishment, Erik Weihenmayer, first blind climber to get to the top of Everest. You can go to his website, touchthetop.com. Eric, it was a pleasure to talk
Thank
to you
you.
again. Good
Thanks
work.
a lot.
The best of the Morning X 99X.